Liara stood at the edge of the council hall, her large violet eyes scanning the crowd of alien nobles. The hall was enormous, filled with creatures of all shapes and colors. Some had wings, some had multiple arms, and others glowed softly in the dim light. The walls were lined with shining panels that displayed the history of their planet, a record of achievements and proud lineage. Yet despite all the grandeur, Liara felt an emptiness deep inside. She had hoped this gathering would be different. Many young nobles had attended the event, seeking marriage alliances that would advance their family's power. Liara had dreamed of joining a family that would appreciate her intelligence, her kindness, and her skill in science. But again, she had been rejected. Again, she had heard the polite but firm words, "We are sorry, Liara, but you are not suitable for our family." Each rejection felt like a weight pressing down on her chest, heavier than the last. Liara let out a quiet sigh and turned away from the crowd. She wandered through the halls, her long silvery hair brushing against the floor, and past a room where young nobles were laughing and talking about their plans for the future. The sound of joy made her heart ache. She wanted to belong. She wanted to be seen, not for her family, her status, or her beauty, but for who she truly was. As she walked, Liara noticed a small group gathered around a strange figure. A human. Humans were rare on her planet, and most aliens considered them weak and unpredictable. This human was different. He stood calmly among the aliens, observing them with curiosity and patience. His name was Kalen. He was part of a human, exploratory mission sent to learn about alien cultures. Unlike many humans who tried to impress or compete, Kalen seemed quiet and thoughtful. Liara felt a strange pull toward him. She watched as he gently helped a small alien child who had tripped over the hall's glowing floor tiles. Kalen didn't scold or rush the child. He knelt down, smiled, and spoke softly until the child laughed and ran off. Liara's heart warmed. She had seen so many nobles focus only on rules, status, or appearances. Here was someone who saw the world differently, who valued kindness and action over titles. She moved closer, careful not to be noticed. Kalen was now speaking with an alien, elder, an important member of the council who had been struggling with a malfunctioning data device. Many nobles had walked past, ignoring the elder's frustration. But Kalen examined the device and, after a few careful gestures, fixed it. The elder blinked in surprise. You have solved it," he said, impressed. Kalen only smiled, politely. "Sometimes a fresh approach helps," he replied. Liara felt a spark of admiration. She wished she could learn more from him. For the first time that day, Liara felt hope. Maybe humans were not as weak as everyone believed. Maybe there was more to life than rules and rejection. Her mind buzzed with questions. Could she talk to him? Could she learn from him? Could someone like Kalen truly understand her in a way that no alien noble could? Suddenly, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned quickly to see her cousin, Velin, frowning. "Liara, you shouldn't be wandering alone," Velin said, her voice sharp. "People are talking. You need to behave, or the council will think you are foolish." I'm fine," Liara replied softly, avoiding her cousin's gaze. She didn't want to explain the pull she felt toward Kalen. Velin shook her head and walked away, leaving Liara staring after her. She knew the truth. Her society would never approve if she pursued someone like Kalen. Humans were outsiders, often underestimated, and sometimes even dismissed as inferior. But Liara couldn't ignore the feeling in her heart. She wanted to understand him, to know him, to learn from him. That evening, as the council hall emptied, Liara found herself near the human diplomatic area. Kalen was there, looking over alien, documents and speaking quietly with another human officer. She took a deep breath. "Hello," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Callan turned, surprised but friendly. "Hello," he said. His voice was calm, and there was no hint of judgment, no condescension. Liara felt her tension ease slightly. She had expected someone to laugh at her or dismiss her, but he didn't. I saw how you helped the elder today," she said, trying to keep her words steady. "That was impressive." Callan smiled, a small, genuine smile. "Thank you," he said. "I just try to help when I can. Sometimes a small action can make a big difference." Liara nodded, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. I like how you see things," she admitted softly. "Most people here, they only see what they want to see." Callan tilted his head slightly. "Sometimes it helps to look with curiosity instead of judgment," he said. "There's always more to learn if we pay attention." Liara felt a spark of connection. It was unlike anything she had experienced with her own kind. No one had ever spoken to her this way, as if her thoughts and feelings mattered. Her heart raced, and she realized perhaps humans could offer something that aliens could not. Perhaps there was more to life than strict rules and rejection. The moment was interrupted by a voice over the communication system, announcing that the human delegation would be leaving soon. Liara felt a pang of sadness. She didn't want this brief connection to end. But she knew that if she wanted to know more about Callan, she would have to take a bold step. As she watched him from a distance, Liara made a quiet decision. She would learn from him. She would try to understand humans, their ways, and their values, and maybe, just maybe, she would find a path forward that no alien society could imagine. A path guided by kindness, courage, and curiosity. That night, Liara lay in her chambers, staring at the glowing ceiling, thinking about the human who had shown her a new way to see the world. For the first time, she felt a flicker of hope, a sense that life might hold something wonderful beyond the cold walls of tradition. And deep in her heart, she wondered if this human could become more than a teacher or a friend. She didn't yet know what the future would bring. But she knew one thing: she would not let rejection define her. Not anymore. And somewhere across the city, Callan, unaware of the impact he had made, looked out at the alien skyline and thought quietly, "Perhaps there is more to this mission than I imagined." The next morning, Liara walked through the glowing streets of her city, her thoughts still lingering on Callan. She could not stop thinking about how different he was from anyone she had ever met. The council's rejection weighed heavily on her, but she felt a strange spark of hope whenever she remembered his calm voice and kind eyes. Maybe humans could teach her something valuable, something her own society had ignored for generations. Liara reached the human diplomatic hub, a sleek structure that contrasted with the alien architecture around it. The building was transparent in places, showing the humans inside as they moved carefully through their tasks. She hesitated at the entrance, unsure if she should go in, but curiosity pushed her forward. She stepped inside, taking care to remain polite. Callan noticed her immediately. He had been organizing some data and communicating with the human officers, but when he saw Liara, he smiled warmly. "Liara," he said, "you're here early." I wanted to learn more," she admitted. "If it's not rude, I would like to see what humans do. I want to understand." Callan gestured for her to follow him. "Of course," he said. "We humans have many ways of thinking, but you are welcome to see how we work." As they moved through the hub, Liara noticed how organized and efficient the humans were. Unlike the aliens, who often relied on strict rules or family status, the humans seemed to solve problems by working together and thinking creatively. She watched as Kalen gently guided a fellow human through a difficult task, explaining things, patiently, and making sure no one felt embarrassed for making mistakes. Liara felt inspired. She had spent her life following the rigid traditions of her society, where failure was often punished and curiosity discouraged. Here was a human who encouraged learning and cooperation. She wondered why no alien noble had ever shown such care for others' abilities. "Liara," Callan said, noticing her thoughtful expression, "do you want to try something?" She nodded eagerly. Callan led her to a small laboratory filled with devices she had never seen before. Some floated in mid-air, others glowed with soft light. He picked up one device, a complicated-looking tool, and handed it to her. "Try to figure it out," he said. "If it doesn't work the first time, that's okay. Learning comes from trying and making mistakes." Liara hesitated, then carefully studied the device. Her fingers moved slowly, adjusting settings and testing responses. After a few minutes, she activated the device, and it hummed to life, emitting a soft, steady light. "You did it!" Kalen exclaimed, clapping his hands lightly. "See? You learn faster than you think when you are allowed to experiment." Liara laughed, feeling a joy she had not experienced in a long time. I didn't think I could," she admitted. "Aliens usually tell me I'm not capable of certain things, but this is different." "That's the difference," Callan said softly. "Humans see potential in effort, not just status or heritage. We grow by trying, learning, and helping each other." Liara nodded, her mind buzzing. She wanted to learn more, not just about humans, but about the ways they treated one another, their values, and their courage. She felt a growing admiration for Callan, not just for his intelligence, but for his kindness and patience. Later, they moved to a small garden attached to the hub. Alien plants mingled with human-designed flora, glowing softly under artificial sunlight. Callan showed Liara how humans experimented with plant growth, observing carefully and making adjustments to improve conditions without harming the plants. Liara listened closely, fascinated. "Your ways are gentle," she said. "Most aliens I know focus on power and perfection. They forget to care for living things." Callan smiled. "Caring is important. Strength without understanding often leads to failure. Even the smallest kindness can make a big difference." As they worked together, Liara felt herself relaxing. For the first time in her life, she was not judged for her mistakes or her thoughts. She could speak freely, ask questions, and experiment. The experience made her heart lighter. However, not everything was peaceful. A group of alien nobles noticed her presence in the human hub. They whispered among themselves, frowning and shaking their heads. "She shouldn't be here," one said. "Humans are not suitable for her. She's a noble. She must maintain her dignity." Liara felt a flash of anger. Why did they care so much about appearances and rules? Did they not see the value in learning and understanding? She glanced at Callan, who was oblivious to the whispers, focused entirely on showing her new methods. Her anger quickly turned into determination. She would learn from Callan, no matter what others thought. She realized that humans might offer qualities that her society had overlooked for centuries: curiosity, kindness, and courage. Perhaps with his guidance, she could grow stronger in ways her society could never imagine. By the end of the day, Liara and Callan sat on a bench in the garden, watching the alien sun dip below the horizon. The sky glowed with colors she had never noticed before, soft purples and golds blending into the darkening night. "Thank you, Callan," she said quietly. "Today, you have shown me something important. I think I want to learn more, not just about humans, but about how to see the world differently." Callan smiled, looking at her with calm, patient eyes. That is what humans do best. Learn and grow. And I am happy to help you, Liara. Together we can understand things that neither humans nor aliens understand alone. Liara felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time, she did not feel lonely or rejected. She had found someone who valued her thoughts, her curiosity, and her heart. She realized that perhaps her future did not have to follow the strict paths set by her society. Perhaps with humans, there was another way, a way of learning, caring, and courage. As night fell over the city, Liara returned to her chambers, her mind filled with new ideas and hope. She knew that challenges awaited her. Society would not accept her fascination with humans easily. But for the first time, she felt brave. She felt that maybe, just maybe, she could change her life, guided by the values she saw in Callan: honesty, kindness, and courage. And somewhere in the human hub, Callan looked out at the alien city, unaware that he had inspired someone to see the world in a new light. The first step of an unusual friendship, perhaps even something more, had begun. The next few days passed quickly for Liara. She found herself eagerly looking forward to every opportunity to meet Callan. The human had opened a new world for her, one where curiosity mattered more than status, and kindness mattered more than appearances. Every conversation, every shared task brought her closer to understanding the value humans placed on honesty, creativity, and courage. One morning, Callan invited her to a human-style workshop inside the diplomatic hub. The room was filled with floating devices, holographic screens, and tools that Liara had never seen before. Today, Callan explained, we'll explore how humans solve problems. It may seem unusual, but the methods we use can be applied anywhere, even in your society. Liara's eyes lit up. I want to try everything, she said, her voice full of excitement. Callan smiled. Good. Humans learn by doing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They worked together for hours. Liara learned how to adjust energy, flows in a floating device, organize data to solve complex problems, and test new ideas without fear of failure. Each time she struggled, Callan offered gentle guidance, encouraging her to think differently, to experiment and explore. You see, he said, watching her carefully adjust a device. Humans value effort and creativity. It's not about being perfect, it's about learning from what doesn't work and trying again. Liara nodded. In my world, mistakes are frowned upon. If someone fails, they are often shamed or ignored. But here it feels safe to try. That's the point, Callan replied. Learning should never be frightening. It should be exciting. It should make you want to grow. For Liara, it was like discovering a new language. A language of action, thought, and heart that went beyond alien traditions. She realized how limited her society had been, focusing only on rules, appearances, and power. Humans, in contrast, valued understanding, empathy, and courage. Later, they moved outside to the gardens attached to the hub. The garden was a mix of human and alien flora. Some plants glowed faintly, while others had intricate shapes that seemed impossible to grow naturally. Liara watched as Callan carefully tended to the plants, adjusting light levels and water flow with gentle precision. Why do humans do this? Liara asked, curious. Because every living thing matters, Callan explained. Even a plant has value. We try to care for everything we can, and in return we learn from it. Liara looked at the garden differently. She had grown up in a world where only achievements mattered, where success was measured by rank and influence. But here she saw balance, patience, and respect for life. She realized that strength could come from compassion, not just power. As they walked among the plants, Liara noticed the subtle changes in Callan's demeanor. He was patient, observant, and respectful, not just to her, but to the environment and everything around him. She felt admiration growing within her, stronger than she had ever felt for an alien noble. However, not everyone approved. A small group of alien nobles had been watching Liara closely. They whispered to one another, their expressions filled with disapproval. "She spends too much time with the human," one said. "It is dishonorable. She must follow our ways." Another added, "Humans are outsiders. She cannot mix with them. She will lose her status and respect." Liara felt a pang of frustration. Why did her society care so much about appearances? And rules? Didn't they see the value of learning, kindness, and understanding? She turned to Callan, who was quietly adjusting the water flow for a glowing plant. His calm demeanor reassured her, and she realized she did not need their approval. Over. The next several days, Liara and Callan spent more time together. They discussed ideas, solved problems, and shared stories about their worlds. Liara told Callan about her family, the strict rules she had grown up with, and the constant pressure to conform. Callan listened attentively, never judging, only asking thoughtful questions that helped her see things differently. "You have strength," Callan said one evening as they observed the twin moons rising over the city. "Not the kind that comes from power or titles, but the kind that comes from learning, courage, and heart. That is rare in any world." Liara felt warmth spread through her chest. No alien noble had ever said such words to her. She realized that humans valued qualities she had never been encouraged to develop, and she wanted to nurture those qualities within herself. One day, Liara faced a challenge. A complex device in the human hub had malfunctioned, and the human officers struggled to fix it. Liara hesitated at first, unsure if she could help, but Callan gave her an encouraging smile. "Try. You can do this." With careful thought and guidance from Callan, Liara worked on the device. She applied logic, creativity, and patience, all qualities humans valued. Slowly, the device hummed to life. The human officers cheered lightly, impressed by her skill. "UI. Did it, Liara," Callan exclaimed. "See what happens when you trust yourself?" Liara laughed, a bright sound that echoed through the hub. I never thought I could. But with your guidance, I see that learning is not about fear. It's about trying." That evening, as they walked through the city streets under glowing lights, Liara realized how much she had changed in just a few days. She felt stronger, more confident, and more aware of her own potential. Callan had shown her a new way to see the world, a way that combined courage, curiosity, and kindness. Yet she also knew challenges awaited her. Alien society would not accept her growing bond with a human easily. Rumors had already begun to spread, and some nobles whispered that she was wasting her time or acting dishonorably. But Liara's resolve only grew stronger. She understood that true strength was not measured by approval or power, but by courage, integrity, and the ability to learn. As they reached the edge of the city, Liara paused and looked at Callan. "Thank you," she said softly, "for teaching me, for showing me a different way to see the world." Callan smiled, his calm eyes reflecting the glow of the city. "You taught yourself, Liara. I only guided you. Humans can help each other, but the true strength comes from within. And you have it." Liara felt a surge of hope and determination. For the first time, she believed that she could change her life, that she could grow beyond the limits her society had set for her. And perhaps, with humans like Callan, she could find a new path, a path where learning, kindness, and courage mattered more than titles or rules. As night fell, the city lights sparkled like stars, and Liara knew that the journey had just begun. She had found someone who saw her for who she truly was, and she was ready to embrace a new world. one where humans and aliens could learn from each other, and where hope and courage could overcome fear and rejection. The council hall buzzed with energy that morning. Alien nobles from all corners of the planet had gathered to discuss matters of governance, alliances, and tradition. Liara walked through the grand hall, her heart pounding. Today, she knew, would test her courage more than any lesson Callan could teach. Rumors about her closeness with a human had spread quickly, and whispers followed her every step. "You shouldn't be here," a noble hissed as she passed. "Do you want to embarrass yourself and your family?" Liara's jaw tightened. She had expected opposition, but hearing it directly felt sharper than she imagined. She held her head high, reminding herself of Callan's words. True strength comes from within. At the front of the hall, the council elders began the session. Liara knew that soon someone would mention her interactions with Callan. Sure enough, an older noble cleared his throat and spoke loudly enough for many to hear. "It has come to our attention," he said, "that Liara has spent considerable time with a human. This is most unusual and, frankly, unacceptable for one of noble blood." Gasps echoed through the hall. Several nobles muttered complaints, shaking their heads in disapproval. Liara's hands clenched at her sides. She felt fear, yes, but also a surge of determination. This was the moment to stand for what she believed. Liara stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension. "I am aware of your concerns," she said, "and I understand the traditions of our society, but I ask you to consider something. Must all value be measured by rules, lineage, or appearances? I have learned from this human Callan lessons that my own society has ignored. I have learned about kindness, courage, and creativity. I have learned that strength is not just about status or power. It is about understanding, empathy, and action." The hall fell silent. Some nobles looked shocked, others angry. A few whispered among themselves, unsure how to respond. One elder, the same who had spoken earlier, frowned. "Liara, do you not realize that your behavior could damage your family's reputation? You risk shame and dishonor by associating with a human. Are you willing to forsake all you have been taught for what? Friendship? Curiosity?" Liara lifted her chin. "Not curiosity alone," she said firmly. "Knowledge, courage, and trust. Humans have qualities we often overlook, and I believe those qualities are valuable, not only to me, but to all of our society." The elder's frown deepened. "You speak boldly, Liara. Boldness is commendable in small measure, but here it seems reckless." At that moment, Callan stepped forward from the back of the hall. He had been observing quietly, but now he spoke. "I do not come to challenge your traditions," he said calmly. "I only wish to show that understanding and cooperation can bridge differences. I respect your society and your rules. I also respect Liara's courage to see beyond them. She has learned lessons that even some of your wisest members have not yet seen. And that is a strength, not a weakness." Whispers ran through the hall. Many nobles stared at him, surprised by a human addressing the council with such confidence and respect. Liara felt her heart swell. Callan's words were not defiant. They were honest and thoughtful, exactly what she had admired in him. The elder spoke again, his voice tight with authority. "And what proof do you offer that this human possesses wisdom? That his teachings have merit?" Callan nodded respectfully. "Look at her," he said, gesturing to Liara. "She has grown stronger, more confident, and more capable through what she has learned. She has faced challenges, solved problems, and demonstrated courage. Isn't that proof enough?" For a moment, the hall was silent. Liara felt a strange thrill. Her words alone had not been enough, but together with Callan's support, they carried weight. She realized that sometimes courage needed to be shared to make a real difference. Several Younger nobles, inspired by Liara's honesty, began to nod subtly. A few even whispered approval. The hall, once tense and judgmental, had shifted slightly. The seeds of change were being planted. Despite the small victories, not all opposition had vanished. The elder cleared his throat once more. "We will. Consider your words, Liara," he said sternly. "But society has rules for a reason. You must proceed carefully." Liara bowed respectfully. "I understand," she said. "But I will not ignore what I know is right. I hope in time our society can learn to value courage, empathy, and understanding as much as tradition." After the council session ended, Liara and Kalen walked through the city in silence. The air was cool, and the twin moons cast a soft glow over the streets. Liara exhaled slowly, feeling both relief and determination. "You were incredible," Kalen said quietly. "You stood up not only for yourself but for something greater. That takes courage." Liara smiled faintly, her shoulders relaxing. "I was afraid," she admitted. "But hearing your words, seeing your calm, helped me find my voice. You make it seem possible to face challenges that once seemed impossible." Callan shook his head gently. "You make it possible yourself. Humans can guide, but the courage comes from within. You chose to stand, Liara. You chose to act." They walked to a small bridge overlooking the city's river, its waters reflecting the alien lights. Liara watched the ripples and felt a quiet determination. Society might resist her choices, and whispers would follow her, but she had discovered something stronger than fear or judgment. She had discovered belief in herself. "I wonder," Liara said softly, "if more people could see things this way. If they could see that courage, empathy, and curiosity are strengths, not weaknesses. Maybe society could change." Callan smiled. A gentle, warm smile. "Change begins with individuals who dare to see differently, and you, Liara, have already taken the first step." Liara felt a spark of hope ignite within her. She knew that challenges awaited. Alien nobles would continue to question her choices, and some might never accept her friendship with a human. But she also knew that true courage was not the absence of fear. It was acting despite it. As they left the bridge and returned to the human hub, Liara felt a sense of pride and purpose. She had faced the council, spoken her truth, and stood firm. And she had learned that humans were not only capable of great courage and wisdom, but also of inspiring it in others. That night, lying in her chambers, Liara thought about the lessons of the day. She realized that growth often came with discomfort, that courage often required standing against tradition, and that understanding could unite worlds. For the first time, she felt truly alive, truly free to explore who she could become. And somewhere across the city, Callan watched the stars from the hub's rooftop. He thought quietly about Liara's bravery, her determination, and her willingness to embrace new ideas. He smiled to himself, knowing that the journey they had begun together was only getting stronger, and that the bond between a human and an alien could inspire more than anyone imagined. The twin moons of Liara's city shone brightly over the ceremonial gardens, casting a soft glow on the pathways lined with glowing plants and flowers. The air was filled with a quiet hum, the gentle sound of life in balance. Liara walked slowly. Along the paths, her hands clasped together, her heart racing. Today, she knew she would face a choice that could change her life forever. For weeks, she had spent time with Callan, learning, laughing, and sharing thoughts. She had discovered courage, empathy, and hope that her society had never encouraged. But the whispers of nobles, the cautious glances of her family, and the rigid rules of tradition all weighed heavily on her mind. Could she truly follow her heart and embrace what felt right, even if it went against centuries of expectation? Callan appeared at the edge of the garden, his calm expression lighting up when he saw her. "Liara," he said softly, "are you ready?" Liara took a deep breath, her violet eyes reflecting the soft light of the moons. "I think I am," she said. "But I am afraid. I don't know how my society will respond. I don't know if I am strong enough to face them." Callan stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. "Strength is not the absence of fear, it is acting despite fear. You have learned much already. You are ready, Liara, and whatever happens, you will not be alone." They walked together to the center of the garden, where a ceremonial circle had been prepared. Alien nobles had been invited to observe, and a few curious young nobles watched quietly from the edges. The air was tense, but it was also filled with anticipation. Liara's heart pounded, but she felt a strange calm. She had prepared herself for this moment, and she knew her choice would come from truth and courage. Liara turned to Callan, her voice steady. "I have spent many days thinking about what matters most. I have thought about tradition, family, and duty, and I have thought about what I have learned from you, about courage, kindness, and understanding, and I have realized I cannot ignore my heart." Callan's eyes softened. "Then follow it," he said simply. Liara took another deep breath and looked out at the assembled nobles. "I know many of you may not understand," she began, her voice carrying clearly through. "The garden. I know some may think I am acting foolishly or dishonorably, but I have learned that courage is more valuable than approval, and understanding is more powerful than tradition. I have learned that humans can teach us lessons that even the wisest of us may overlook, and I have chosen to embrace that learning." The nobles murmured among themselves, a mixture of shock, curiosity, and hesitation. Some frowned, but a few younger nobles looked on with interest, inspired by her bravery. Liara felt her heart strengthen. She had spoken her truth. She had acted with courage. Now the final step remained. Liara turned to Callan, her hands trembling slightly. "Callan," she said softly, Will you be my partner? Will you join me in this journey, not just as a friend or teacher, but as someone who walks beside me, who values courage, understanding, and kindness above all else?" Callan's eyes widened, and a warm smile spread across his face. "Liara," he began, his voice filled with emotion. I would be honored. I have never met anyone like you. Your courage, your honesty, your willingness to see beyond fear, it inspires me. Yes, I will walk beside you as your partner, your friend, and your ally." A hush fell over the garden. Even the nobles who had opposed her looked stunned, witnessing the bond between the human and the alien. It was unlike anything they had seen before, a connection built not on status or expectation, but on trust, respect, and courage. Liara felt a wave of relief and joy. She had chosen her path. She had embraced the qualities she valued most, and she had found someone who shared them with her. The fear that had gripped her moments ago melted away, replaced by a quiet strength she had never known. Some of the older nobles began to speak, their voices cautious. "This is unusual," one said. "But perhaps there is wisdom in what they have done, courage and understanding. Maybe these are qualities our society has overlooked." Another nodded slowly. "We cannot ignore what we have witnessed. Perhaps humans can teach us lessons we have not yet learned." Liara smiled, feeling hope blossom in her heart. She realized that even small acts of courage and honesty could inspire change, even in a society bound by tradition. She had faced fear, spoken her truth, and embraced what she believed was right. And in doing so, she had opened a path not only for herself, but for others who might one day follow. Callan took her hand gently. "Liara," he said, "this is only the beginning. Together we can learn, grow, and show others that courage and kindness matter more than titles or rules." Liara nodded, her heart full. "Yes, together," she agreed. "We can teach our worlds to see differently, to value empathy, curiosity, and courage above all else." As they stood in the ceremonial circle, surrounded by the soft glow of alien plants and the light of twin moons, Liara felt a profound sense of peace. She had chosen her path, embraced her courage, and found someone who shared her vision. For the first time, she felt that her life was truly her own, not dictated by tradition, status, or fear, but guided by values she believed in and a partnership built on trust and understanding. The assembled nobles began to clap slowly, some hesitantly, others with genuine admiration. Liara's family, watching from the edges, exchanged glances. Though they did not fully understand, they could not deny her bravery, nor the inspiration she had brought to the gathering. Liara squeezed Kalen's hand, feeling the warmth of his support. She knew challenges would continue, and that some would never fully accept their bond. But she also knew that courage, honesty, and compassion were powerful forces that could change hearts and minds, even in the most rigid societies. As the ceremony ended and the guests slowly departed, Liara and Callan walked through the garden together. The soft glow of the plants and the quiet hum of life around them seemed to echo their thoughts, an affirmation that growth, learning, and courage were paths worth following. Liara looked up at the twin moons, her heart filled with hope. "We've taken the first step," she said softly, "and I feel ready for whatever comes next." Callan smiled. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." And in that moment, under the soft light of alien moons, Liara realized that she had discovered something extraordinary. Not only the courage to follow her heart, but also the power of partnership, understanding, and hope. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, she knew that the path ahead was bright, guided by values that transcended tradition, and strengthened by the bond she shared with a human who saw the world as she did, a world of courage, kindness, and possibility. The days following the ceremony were filled with quiet excitement. Liara and Callan walked together through the city streets, their presence slowly becoming more accepted among some of the younger nobles and citizens. The whispers and disapproval from older, more traditional nobles still lingered, but a sense of change was beginning to ripple through the society. People had seen courage and honesty, and some were inspired. Liara felt a new sense of purpose. She continued her studies with Callan, exploring both human and alien sciences, arts, and philosophies. Each day brought fresh discoveries and lessons, and she learned not only from Callan, but also from the humans' methods of observation, experimentation, and cooperation. She realized that knowledge, like courage, was most valuable when shared and applied for the good of all. One morning, as the twin moons rose in the sky, Liara and Callan stood atop a hill overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking. Towering structures of glass and metal mingled with alien architecture, glowing plants lined the streets, and distant stars sparkled beyond the atmosphere. Liara took a deep breath and turned to Callan. "Do you ever think about what our world will look like in the future?" she asked softly. Callan smiled, his eyes reflecting the moons. "I do. I think about the people we can inspire, the ideas we can share, and the courage we can teach. The future is built by those who dare to see differently, and you have already done that, Liara." Liara smiled back. "I feel stronger, more capable. I've learned to trust myself and to value the lessons of others, no matter where they come from. And I've learned that courage and kindness are more powerful than fear and tradition." Callan nodded. Exactly. You have embraced what it means to grow beyond limits, and that is the essence of humanity, of all sentient beings who choose to learn and improve. Together we can help others see the same. As they spoke, a group of young nobles approached, curiosity and admiration in their eyes. Liara, one said, we heard about the ceremony. You were brave, and we want to learn from you. Can we observe your work with Callan? Liara felt a surge of happiness. Of course, she said. There is much to learn, and I am glad to share. Courage and knowledge grow when we share them, not hide them. The young nobles listened carefully, as Liara and Callan demonstrated human and alien techniques in science, problem-solving, and understanding life. They explained how cooperation, empathy, and courage could overcome challenges that tradition alone could not solve. The students' eyes widened with interest, and many began asking questions. Liara felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Over the following weeks, Liara's example began to change the hearts of others. Some older nobles remained skeptical, but many realized the value of the lessons she had learned. Small acts of courage, kindness, and learning started to ripple through society. Liara and Callan's work inspired discussions about growth, understanding, and the importance of embracing new ideas. One afternoon, Liara and Callan visited her family home. Her parents had been cautious, unsure how to respond to her new path. But they watched quietly as she worked with Callan to solve a technical problem in their city's energy system. Step by step, Liara explained what she had learned, demonstrating her courage, intelligence, and skill. Her parents exchanged glances, surprise and pride in their expressions. Liara, her mother said softly, we see how much you have grown. You have shown strength we never realized. Perhaps we have underestimated the power of learning and courage. Liara smiled warmly. It is never too late to grow, she replied. We can all learn if we are willing to see the world differently and embrace courage, kindness, and curiosity. Her father nodded slowly. You have chosen your path wisely. We are proud of you, Liara. The acknowledgement from her family strengthened her resolve. She knew that she had faced fear, societal pressure, and uncertainty, and she had emerged stronger and wiser. The bond with Callan had been a guiding force, showing her that true strength comes not from rules or titles, but from courage, honesty, and compassion. As the moons rose once more, casting silver light over the city, Liara and Callan walked hand in hand through the streets. Citizens watched them with curiosity, some with admiration, and a few with quiet skepticism. Yet the overall mood had shifted. People were beginning to see the value in courage, cooperation, and understanding. They stopped at the edge of the city, where the river reflected the lights and stars above. Callan turned to Liara. Do you ever imagine what our future might look like if more people embrace these lessons? Liara nodded, her eyes shining. Yes. I imagine a world where courage is celebrated, where learning is valued, and where partnerships are based on respect and understanding. A world where differences are not feared, but seen as opportunities to grow. Callan smiled. Then let's make that world together, one step at a time with courage and hope. Liara squeezed his hand. Yes, together. In the following months, their work expanded. Liara and Callan led educational programs, workshops, and collaborative projects, blending human and alien techniques. They encouraged young nobles to question, to explore, and to act with courage. Slowly, society began to change. The rigid focus on tradition softened, replaced by an appreciation for empathy, understanding, and curiosity. The alien city, once confined by strict rules and fear of outsiders, became a place of learning, cooperation, and growth. Humans and aliens worked side by side, sharing knowledge and ideas. Liara's courage had sparked a movement, and Callan's patience and wisdom had guided it. Together, they demonstrated that partnerships based on respect, courage, and learning could transform not only individuals, but entire societies. One evening, as the city settled under the twin moons, Liara and Callan stood atop a high terrace, looking out at the lights of their transformed world. Liara's heart was full of hope and joy. She had faced fear, challenged tradition, and embraced her own strength. And in doing so, she had helped inspire others to do the same. "Look at how far we've come," Liara said softly. Callan nodded, his hand holding hers. "And this is only the beginning. Together we can continue to learn, grow, and inspire change." Liara smiled, feeling the warmth of his presence. "Together," she repeated. As the moons reflected off the river and the city glowed with life, Liara knew that their journey had created something extraordinary. Not just a bond between a human and an alien, but a vision for a world where courage, empathy, and understanding could flourish. And in that vision there was hope. Hope for growth, hope for unity, and hope for a future where anyone, human or alien, could stand proud, strong, and free. The city continued to hum with life, the future bright with possibility. Liara and Callan walked forward hand in hand, ready to face whatever challenges might come, guided by the lessons they had learned and the bond they shared. Together they had not only discovered each other, they had discovered a better way to see the world, a world shaped by courage, kindness, and hope. And in that light, Liara knew her story was only beginning.